What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with the MLB preseason power rankings. As always, I'll be breaking down all 30 teams, and I'll be doing this every week till the season is over. But to stay up to date with that, hit that subscribe button down below to get us to 500 subscribers, where we will be doing a giveaway. And we'll start at 30 with the Oakland Athletics. And this team is not going to look too hot. They traded a lot of guys away. Trevor May is going to be the highest paid player this year at $7 million, which is, a lot of money, obviously, to a person like me. But in MLB, that is not a lot. And this team could possibly lose 120 games. I mean, they're going to be very bad. And also, they just DFA'd Christian Pache, one of the guys they got in the Sean Murphy or the Matt Olson trade. So, a lot of things going wrong for this team. In 29, another team rebuilding is the Washington Nationals. This team dealt Juan Soto last deadline, and they got CJ Abrams, Kenzie Gore, and some other guys back. And, they got to show that they can be the future for this franchise. But the pitching is going to be atrocious. Patrick Corbin is going to be an opening day starter. And last year, he struggled a lot. So this national team is going to be tough to watch at times. 28, the Cincinnati Reds come in here, adding Will Myers, Luke Weaver, and Chad Pinder isn't really, the high-end offseason acquisition they made. But they do have one of the best farm systems in baseball behind this year. So it's going to be another transitional year upcoming, and it could be Joey Votto's last. At 27, we have my Detroit Tigers. This team, hired a new GM and Scott Harris. They're kind of due for a bounce back here, I guess you could say, a little better than last year. The rotation needs to stay healthy. That's the big question mark. They also brought in the outfield walls by 10 feet, but they didn't make much noise in the offseason. They brought in Mike Lorenzen, who's already on the IL, a familiar face in Matt Boyd, and Cesar Hernandez, who they're going to let go. So the Tigers, looking for 70 wins, I think, is the goal this year. At 26, the Pittsburgh Pirates come in here, and they brought back Andrew McCutchen, who spent his prime with the Pirates, and he's back in more than likely his last year. Brought in some pitching, some veterans with Rich Hill, Vince Velasquez, and Austin Hedges to help out that young staff behind those guys. And O'Neill Cruz, Ryan Hayes, and Contreras will have to make this game or this team fun to watch throughout the year, because there will be times where they will struggle. At 25, the Colorado Rockies come in here. Chris Bryant needs to stay healthy for this team to get around where they did last year. Freeland and Marquez, have to be aces and NL All-Stars for them to get to even 500. But this team has no direction. They don't know what they're doing. And who knows? This team could maybe win 80 games or they could win 50. It's just not even close for them. But 24, we have the Royals. And this team, could be very tough to play in September when all these young guys are really, in their groove and whatnot. The starting pitching is going to be a question mark with, adding the veterans could be okay, but, they need production out of that pitching and the bullpen to have a successful year. If not, then this team is right around 70 and under. 23, I have the Giants, and I think this team is going to be regressing a little bit here. 81 and 81 was very good for them last year, but I don't think it's going to happen this year. They missed with Correa and Judge, but they got Haniger, Conforto, Manea, and Stripling. I think Manea will be a very good arm, possibly for the deadline if he has a good year. But this NL West, there's a team there's going to be regression. I think it's going to be the Giants. 22, the Miami Marlins come in here. And they traded Pablo Lopez for Luis Ariz, and that's the big storyline for them. Gene Segura signed him as well, but they need Jazz to stay fully healthy this year to even have a shot at contending. But this rotation keeps them in ball games, but the hitting is, the only weak side of this team. And if they can score, I think, more than 4 runs a game somehow, then this team could probably easily get over 500. 21, I have the Red Sox, and they lost a lot. They lost Bogarts, which was very confusing to me why they didn't re-sign him, and JD, which I think they easily could have brought back. But they brought in Justin Turner, Corey Kluber, Kenley Jansen, and Am Duvall. I think his team will float around 500 until September. And this year kind of will decide what they're going to do for the future beyond. And, if they are contending, then they might try to get some pieces. But if not, they might just try to deal them all away and look to start the rebuild. 20, we have my surprise playoff contender this year in the Arizona Diamondbacks. The young core looks to, put it all together this year for a playoff run. And I think adding Kyle Lewis and Gabriel Moreno from Toronto could be the factors that push them over the edge. And Corbin Carroll looks like he's another top candidate for Rookie of the Year. And I think this team, if you put them in, let's say, not the NL East, what the NL Central, this team could compete with the Cardinals to win this division. I think that's how highly they are this year. At 19, from the NL Central, I have the Chicago Cubs. Their big storyline was adding Dansby Swanson for that huge contract. They also had some under the radar moves with Jameson Taillon, Cody Bellinger, Trey Mancini, Michael Fulmer, and Tucker Barnhart. And I think heading into September, they could keep things close with the Brewers for the next wild card spot. I don't think they'll be contending for the division, but the wild card is more likely. At 18, I have the Texas Rangers, and their big storyline this offseason was pitching, adding DeGrom, Evaldi, Heaney, and Danny Duffy and Ordozzi if someone goes down. And the Rangers needed pitching help, and they got it. But how will the offense hold up behind Garcia, Simeon, Lowe, and Seager? After that, it's a huge drop off. And I think that's the big question mark for me for these Rangers is how consistent will that lineup be throughout the year? 17, the Baltimore Orioles check in here. They were a huge surprise of last year, ahead of schedule by far. And could they improve on last year's success? And I think, they'll be right around the same record or even better. The starting pitching will be the biggest question mark. Kyle Gibson and Cole Irvin are going to be the guys, but Grayson Rodriguez, getting sent to the minors to start the year, DL Hall could make this team a threat with Gunnar Henderson. 16, the White Sox check in here in almost the middle of the pack. And this team hasn't won an AL Central title in 14 years. And I think it's time for them to, possibly win it this year. It's up for grabs. The division is wide open. And if Benintendi can stay healthy and be a solid bat like he was in Boston, then the White Sox might have found a key piece and unlock something that could be a scary lineup if they all stay healthy. 15, the Brewers check in. And this year could be the year where we see them regress and trade a few pieces away. The pitching is obviously going to be great, but the hitting, who knows what that's going to do. But these Brewers, same old Brewers, just like every year. 14, I have the Minnesota Twins. And this rotation is going to be one of the deepest and one of the best, I think, by the end of this year. Adding Pablo Lopez and Tyler Mayhew at the end of the year, could get a full season of him, would be great. Correa stays healthy, would be great. And even Gallo, if he can have a huge rebound season, I think that's an excellent payoff for him because, we've seen Joey Gallo, what he can do when he is in his top of the game. But getting Buxton back for the whole year would be the cherry on the top. If he stays healthy the whole year, this team is going to be very good. But if not, they did trade for Michael A. Taylor to make sure that they will have a solid starting center fielder if he goes down. 13, I have the Los Angeles Angels, and this could be the best roster that Mike Trout has ever had around him. Added Brandon Drury, Gio Urshela, Tyler Anderson, and Hunter Renfroe. I just like this team. I think they could be a sleeper come late September to sneak in. And Anthony Rendon, don't forget about that name too, because he was a forgotten figure last year and the year before when he signed because he got hurt. And I think this could be his first full year where he's fully healthy and makes some noise. At 12, I have the Guardians. The biggest move for them was signing Josh Bell, and I think that's a huge move that goes under the radar because they got protection for Jose Ramirez finally. Bo Naylor, could he make a huge impact in year one? And they are the favorite to repeat in the Central after winning 90-plus games last year. But then again, it's the Central, and who knows what's going to happen. Just missing the top 10 are those Seattle Mariners after a great playoff appearance last year. Since 2001 was their first time. But can they sustain this success with the young core? They did add Colton Wong and Teoscar Hernandez to boost that lineup a little bit and on defense. And, Julio's going to have a great year, and the pitching is very good as well. But their biggest thing is catching up to the Astros. Last year they finished 16 games back and still made the playoffs. But I think if you finish 10 or closer, it's going to be a very successful year for those Mariners. Speaking of 10, At 10, I have the Tampa Bay Rays. And this team is going to have to rely on pitching yet again, as the positional side did not get any moves made to improve the hitting. But they did get Brandon Lowe back. And this team, with him in the lineup, is a very good team. Rookie of the Year, Curtis Mead, could, if he has a good year, then he could possibly win that Rookie of the Year and put this team, around 90 wins, just like they do almost every year. But they need Glass now back and healthy after pretty much the middle of April. The Cardinals come in at 9. Offense is going to be great yet again. Pitching with Flaherty, Matz, Montgomery, Mikolas, and him signing an extension. They're going to have to be, very good this year to stay at top of the Central. And Wilson Contreras to replace Yachty. I mean, that's a pretty good replacement if you ask me. At 8, I have the Blue Jays. They added some left-handed hitting to the lineup, which balances out that lineup with Varsho, Belt, and Kiermaier. And this team needs a good year out of Berrios. And if he doesn't, then I think he could be possibly shipped out next offseason, or maybe even at the deadline if they don't like what they're seeing. But they got Bassett to compete with him and possibly push him to the next level. As we know, Manoah will be the starting pitcher 1. 7, I have the Padres. I can't put them in the top 5 just yet, like a lot of people are, just because Tatis is not back yet. And when he returns, could it be the best lineup in baseball? I mean, I think it's one of the deepest. And they are going to start the year. Well, they might start the year with 6-man rotation with Lugo and Waka. And I just think the Padres, this is the year that they need to go all out and win that division. It's been a while since a team other than the Dodgers has won the division. At 6, we have those Dodgers, and they lost both Turners with Trey and Justin. They lost Tyler Anderson, Cody Bellinger, and Martin too, but they are still a World Series favorite. SP, starting pitching, is going to be the big key for them this year. If they can get, their good starters out of Gonsolin, May, and Syndergaard, well then, this team is probably going to win 100 games again, just like they normally do. But the depth is going to be the problem with Gavin Lux out for the year with the torn ACL. Miguel Rojas, who came over from Miami, is going to fill the shortstop role. But after that, they don't have a lot of depth. So I could see them maybe going for some free agents here that just got DFA'd moving forward. At 5, the New York Mets check in here. And this is, going to be World Series or bust for them this year, with Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander on the same team again, like they were in Detroit. Those two look to, possibly be, those best 1-2 duo in baseball. Senga, adding him from the Japanese league could be, one of the best moves in the offseason. And Nimmo, Diaz, and Ottavino could be the best moves of the year as well, re-signing the piece from last year. But now Quintana's out 3 months. Diaz is possibly out for the year. So it's already not looking good for this pitching for the Mets. And hopefully they can stay healthier throughout the year. And if, this is the Mets where they keep on getting hurt, we might see them falter yet again. At 4, I have the other New York team with the New York Yankees. They brought back Judge and named him a captain. Made this team, just as good as last year. Oh, and they also added Carlos Rendon when he's healthy. They'll get him back in probably mid to late April. But the bullpen is still the biggest question mark for this team. They had a great start at the beginning of last year, that first half. Then the second half, they struggled. And that's where the Yankees, I think, could get held up and possibly lose a lot of games in the back end of games. But the young prospects with Volpe and Dominguez, I think those two guys are going to be key factors for the Yankees' success this year. At 3, the Philadelphia Phillies check in, the World Series losers. They got there, but just couldn't get it done. And how did they get better? Well, they had a Trey Turner for almost $300 million, Taijuan Walker, Gregory Soto in a trade, Craig Kimbrell, and Matt Strahm for the pitching. So they have a lot of depth. I think the top prospect, Andrew Painter, could be the big factor for them in the starting rotation, with Nola and Wheeler. I think if they add a Painter and he becomes a star, then this Phillies team is going to be tough to beat come postseason time. But their biggest storyline right now is Bryce Harper. When is he going to be back? Because they didn't put him on the 60-day IL, meaning that he could come back before then, but no one really knows an update about that situation. At 2, I have the Atlanta Braves, and their offseason was quiet besides trading William Contreras and pretty much for Sean Murphy from Oakland, and then sign him to an extension. But if they can get a full healthy season out of Acuna and Elvis, That's going to be awesome. And Von Grissom getting the keys to shortstop more than likely. He has a big role to take over for Dance, but I think he can fill those shoes. And at one, of course, we have the Houston Astros staying put, and they still have a top 3 rotation in baseball after letting JV walk. They got Luis Garcia, Christian Javier, Lance McCullers. Those 3 guys are 1, 2, and 3. And then you got the other Garcia, Jose Urquidy, and Ricky Hunter Brown fighting for those last spots. So it's going to be interesting to see. Maybe they start with a 6-man rotation to start the year, or they just go with some long relievers. But, then they also look at the hitting side. They also added Jose Ray, who, was a former MVP in 2020 for the Chicago White Sox. And I think that makes their lineup just even scarier. But, Altuve obviously out 8 to 10 weeks. I don't think they're going to miss a beat without him. And when they get him back, they're just going to keep on rolling. But that's going to be it for the video today. Make sure you guys come back to check out our updated power rankings and my bracket for this year to see who I will have winning the year at the beginning of the year. But until the next time, the Bench Buddies are out.